Hi everyone, it's Taro here. I wanted to make a few movement videos for all of my clients, like I've been promising for a while, as the lockdown is still going on and it's winter, it's snowy outside at the moment in London, and maybe we don't get out as much as we would like to, or we're stuck home working from not necessarily the best position, maybe on the kitchen table, or maybe the movement classes that we used to do are not available for us, and therefore we are starting to feel a little bit congested and achy. So I'm going to make a series of these videos. I hope they're useful for you. And today we're just going to start with very simple things, and this is going to be the theme really for all of the videos that I'll do. I always think that the more simple something is, the better it's going to be, because hopefully we will do it a little bit more. So I'll be doing things that don't require any props, that you can do either seated, standing, or I'll do some work on the floor as well. But very simple things. It's very possible that you've seen these sort of similar approaches, similar movements somewhere else. I haven't made these up, but regardless, if you, I just hope that they're useful for you, whether you've seen those movements before. I just hope that they inspire you to really put them in action in your everyday life, because a little goes a long way in terms of movement, and a little movement goes a long way in terms of trying to prevent those big aches and pains really forming. So without any further ado, let's get going. So we'll start with simple things that you can do seated, and this is especially bearing in mind that a lot of my clients are working from home at the moment. They may be working from laptops, in the best case scenario desktop, but not always in positions that are very kind of ergonomic necessarily. Maybe at work you got a chair that you can adjust, sometimes even a table that you can adjust, and maybe sometimes when we are in the office environment or work environment, sometimes we move more than we realize. Whether it's to go and get a cup of tea or a cup of water, or to go to someone else's office, or to say hello, going to the toilet. Sometimes the movement sphere is a little bit bigger than it is at home. So then we just need to keep on moving more at home and just be a little bit more mindful with it. Some people use, there's an application called Tomatillo. I'm sure there's lots of apps in a very similar vein, and it basically, you can time it to a time that's suitable for you. Some people time it for 30 minutes, some people time it for 45 minutes, some people time it for an hour. But anyway, every hour or every time that you've set it for, it gives you a little buzz, and that's your call to do something, whether it's to go and get a glass of water, go and make a cup of tea, move a little bit. And really the science has shown that the little breaks in the work are actually really effective, not just for our physical health in terms of doing and moving around a little bit, but for our capacity to absorb and deal with the information that we are dealing with. So those little breaks, even though you feel, oh, it's just interrupting my work, it's actually good for you, because the way our brain works and assimilates information. So just bear that in mind. So if we think of having one of those little quick buzzes on our computer or our laptop, and or our phone, and we've been working, so the majority of people that I see really suffer from upper shoulder ache and neck pain, and that may be due to several reasons. Usually it is a postural, having to do in terms of where you have your computer. So this happens a lot with people. It happens in myself as well. Don't worry, this happens with all of us. This is the 21st century ailment. But what we tend to do is we tend to put our neck forward when we're looking at something, especially if we're working from a small screen. Let's say it's a small 13-inch laptop. So we tend to put our head towards the screen, or it might be a phone. And what it means is that all of the muscles in the back of the neck really have to struggle because your head is really heavy. So if you think of a stick, which would be our cervical spine, our neck, and the top of the stick is a really heavy ball, which is our head. If the stick is vertical, the gravity works all around the ball, and things are in balance. Now, if you make that stick into a Pisa tower, all of a sudden the muscles here are like ropes holding on to that stick, making sure that it doesn't collapse under the weight of the head. So no wonder if we have this position is that we get a lot of pain here, and it may accumulate and kind of there's a little hump here right in the cervical spine where it kind of protrudes out a little bit, where especially it gets very, very achy. So the first thing for us all to do is to make sure that we try and bring our neck back in so it sits nicely on the top of the rest of the spine, and that in itself gives a bit of a relief for those neck muscles. Now, before we do any kind of stretching sort of movements, rather than going from a static position straight into a stretching position, it's a really good idea to mobilize the muscles a little bit. So if you have been staring at the screen for a while, before starting to yank or kind of elongate the muscles in any sort of forceful way, it's a really good idea to just use those neck muscles a little bit. Give them something to do. And just looking from side to side and doing a little bit of a rotation down, side, up. It's a really good idea, and then changing directions as well. That simple action in itself will give the muscles something to do, and they really like it. So muscles are like little children. They really like it when they have something to do, and they really don't like it if you ask them to be static. So let's give them something to do, just ever so gently, just looking from side to side. Also, just if you notice that you be sitting with your shoulders up, if it's been a stressful day, just really bringing those shoulders down. And now we can do the two at the same time. So we can start rotating the shoulders as well. There's a muscle in the upper back called trapezius, which is a kind of kite-shaped muscle. It attaches here to the bottom of the skull, mid-back, and then to the shoulders. And it's the upper traps and mid-traps that really get easily kind of congested and painful. So just giving these muscles something to do makes them really happy. It also brings blood flow into the area. And we know that when we get blood flow, things get warm. And when things get warm, things get a little bit more malleable. A bit like heating plastic. So when it's cold, it's hard. And the warmer it gets, the more loose it gets as well. Same thing with the tissues and fascia. They start to soften up when we start moving them. Maybe bringing your neck back into neutral now, just sitting on top of the spine, and just rolling those shoulders. So moving that trapezius, rhomboids which connect the shoulder blades into the spine, and starting to rotate your shoulders. So internal and external rotation. Very simple and very gentle. What tends to happen as well with many of us, myself included, is that we tend to kind of caving on the chest when we do something. So this is caved in, the shoulders roll in, and we're doing something on the front and that neck is forward. So we want to offer something that's opposite of that. So we want to bring that chest bone so it points 90 degrees, not up because that would congest our back, but just 90 degrees, so pointing straight forward. And those shoulders from that internal rotation, let's bring them so that they're rotating externally, so outside, so bringing that palm facing outside. And if you can incorporate your breath here, this is a really nice one. So taking a big breath in and really letting the breath just come as a big sigh, especially if you've been stressed. Often when we're stressed, we start to breathe on these kind of neck muscles, accessory neck muscles here, accessory breathing muscles. We can breathe that way, but again, it brings a lot of tension to our throat, into our neck. So we want to really start incorporating our diaphragm, which is a muscle just here. And what that means is that we want to breathe into the belly. So when we take a big breath in, our belly goes out and out. Really big breath out. It really helps us to dissipate nervousness, tension, anxiety. Just lets things moving, gets things moving inside of us. And believe me, it will help your cognition as well. So now I'm feeling like my shoulders are starting to warm up a little bit. And just the last thing before we move forward, what sometimes happens is that what we do is we sit in a way where our tailbone kind of points out a bit like a bird's tail. And there we have this sort of arch in the lower back. That can feel like a comfortable position to be sitting. I'm kind of not sitting on my sitting pose, I'm sitting past my sitting pose on the upper thighs. It feels comfortable to sit in a sense that there's a lot of meat on my thighs at least. So it's a very soft surface to be sitting on. However, it does congest my lower lumbar back. So what I really want to do is I want to just squeeze my abdominals a little bit and just roll that lower back in so that there is no tailbone, but I'm actually trying to make this lower back quite straight. Some people really get a lot of lower back ache when they drive, for instance. You can put a support into the car seat. Sometimes it's about supporting, getting yourself high enough on the seat. Myself being a short person, I tend to do that in a lot of the higher cars when we use them. So I'm up enough on the actual how the seat is formed. But also if you have a seat where you have a backrest, you may want to bring some sort of a pillow behind your lower back so you can kind of squeeze into it. It supports you nicely so that you don't roll into that position where the tail is pointing backwards. So just being mindful of that pelvic position, so really bringing that, tucking that tailbone under while we do this as well. And hopefully by now your shoulders are starting to be nice and loose. So let's go into some stretches. So if you have a seat where you can hold on to the side of the seat, or you can alternatively just sit on your hand. I'm going to hold on to the side of the seat. I'm going to hold on to the side of the seat, and what it does, because my fingers just about reach the side, it locks my shoulder here underneath. So my it just inhibits me bringing the shoulder with me. So my shoulder goes down on the opposite side, opposite hand, gently just reaching around, cupping around my ear, and then I'm pulling the head gently, ever so gently. It's more of a thought than an actual pull into the opposite diagonal corner. And again, maybe breathing into that a couple of times. In through the nose. And out through the mouth. Let's do it a couple of more times. And out. And on the exhale, I'm really trying to imagine even more lengthening, even letting go. Rather than being an active lengthening, it's more of a thought of, I'm going to just let go of that tension there. And then gently coming back into the middle on the inhale. I find it's easier on the inhale. Then changing sides, so grabbing the opposite side and exhaling. And lifting that head. And it's not a real lift, it's just a thought of a lift. And out. And really relaxing into that. It might be useful sometimes to close your eyes when you do this sort of thing. When we shut one sense out, it's almost like other senses gets a bit sharpened. And it just, perhaps it works only for me, but it just helps me to kind of gauge a little bit more what's actually going on those tissues that are elongating. And maybe taking those fairly large breaths, as if you're saying, I can't be bothered. Let's try that again. I'm just going to put my hand underneath, just making sure that that shoulder stays down. Again, lifting the head diagonally elsewhere, being gentle. If there's any pain at any point, back off. So the pain is body's way of saying, I don't like this now. We don't always understand why are we getting the pain, but if there is pain anywhere in the neck, really, just back off a little bit. And sometimes the pain comes because in stretching we're actually kind of jarring, we're activating muscles, and really it's all about letting go. So really softening into that little stretch. And then once more onto the other side, so sitting on the opposite hand, bringing the other hand through, cupping around the ear and lifting. Okay, let's take a different muscle. So now we stretch this upper trapezius. Now let's take a different muscle, and that muscle is Levator Scapula, which is Latin, elevates the scapula. Very functional name. So is that we now look 45 degrees, let's say to the left or your right if you're following me like a mirror. Again, the hand comes through. Now it comes to the kind of the opposite side of the head. The chin tucks into the chest, and then the opposite hand comes in and the elbow lifts. And again, taking a couple of deeper breaths. Coming in on the inhale and then changing sides. So 45 degrees to the other direction, bringing the chin to the chest and then bringing the hand just kind of holds on the shoulder, chin to the chest, opposite elbow towards the ceiling. It might not go all the way to the ceiling, it doesn't matter. This function, this kind of movement of the opposite hand, it just helps that muscle not get activated. And breathing into the belly. That's it, and gently coming in. With your neck, always be really gentle with your movements, and also be mindful. So if you're sitting next to a window, for instance, if your working space is somewhere where you can get a draft on one side, be mindful, use a scarf, or try to make sure that you don't get the draft on one side, because the cooler air can really just affect the muscles, and all of a sudden you notice that you've got a really sore neck. Another time when people often get neck issues or upper shoulder issues is after sleeping. So you might have been in the same position for a long time and then waking up very suddenly, for instance, moving, and all of a sudden you have a jarred muscle. If that's the case, obviously, come and get a massage. It might need a little bit more than just stretching. But if you do wake up with the kind of that sort of feeling, then just doing movement in the range that's possible for you at that time would be really good, just to get a little bit more blood flow and movement onto that area. Also, if you got one of those wheaty bags that you can warm in a microwave, those sort of things can be quite useful. But a massage would be a really good one. Okay, so we've worked on the levator scapula here in the back. We worked on the upper traps. There's a lot of tissue here in front of the neck as well. So let's open those up as well, especially if we've had that sort of head forward posture. Also, that gives tension here underneath this the cranium. Sorry, being a bit fuzzy today. So let's open the cranium actually first. So here it's very simple. So we just again want to just make sure that we don't have that bird's tail. Sorry, tucking the tailbone under, keeping the spine straight, taking a breath, and on the exhalation, just chin to the chest, and at the same time maybe externally rotating those shoulders just a little bit, and then hanging in that space. Again, if there's any pain, any kind of pinching, feeling like something's stuck, then back off a little bit. Go always really gently. And maybe coming in, breathing in, and then on the exhale again, rolling those shoulders out and just bringing that chin into the chest. And let's do it one more time. Taking a couple of deeper breaths in there. And another time. and coming back in carefully. Now the tissue is right in front of the neck. They're called platysma. So what we'll do here is we'll bring one hand onto the chest, the other hand comes to the top, and this is the right arm or hand that's on my left chest. I'm going to bring my chin up to the upper corner on the right. And again, just feeling where that tightness is. And coming in. And again. And down. Let's do it on the other side. So left hand comes on the right chest. And now always when we're looking up, be really mindful, especially if you are elderly. Be always really mindful of the neck. So looking up, especially if you have any osteoarthritis, arthritic joints on the neck, you've got to be super careful. So maybe for you, if you got any issues on the neck, or osteoarthritis, or you know, anything that has been, whether it's been diagnosed or not, or you're aware of not having a very healthy neck, there's cricking, crunching, and you don't feel comfortable, then don't do this so high. If, however, you feel that you can look up comfortably, no problem, then feel free. But always respect that signaling coming from the body. If it feels like something is unsafe, then it can be unsafe. So let's not go to any place that could be in any way unsafe for us. That's it. So we've done the tissues on the front, we've done the tissues on the right on the top, and we've done tissues on the levator scapula, especially, that tends to bring that shoulder up. So there are some movements, I'm sure those will get you started, but again, if you can't remember any of them except for the rolling of the shoulder, that's brilliant. You know, just simple things. It's about the frequency rather than the complicated nature of movement. So I hope you have fun with that. Do let me know how you get on, and have a great day. Take care.